And with that, here's Ross and Jim to give you a tour of American Treasure Tour.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the American Treasure Tour. We are in Oaks, Pennsylvania, just outside of Valley Forge, suburb of Philadelphia. If you haven't been, you're very welcome to come. We are open Fridays through Sundays. Give us a buzz. You'll talk to Ashley, our manager. She is amazing as far as booking things if you have a group coming or if you just want to show up. And as Bob said, we do have a tram ride, and I hate to correct Bob, but the good people at Goodrich might get very upset if they found out he said Firestone. This was a B.F. Goodrich factory, 1937 until 1986. And that includes the war years. And in fact, they won 3 very prestigious awards during the war years because of their production. And that's not what we're about. We're about mechanical music. We're about classic cars. We're about pretty close to anything pop culture you can imagine. Stuffed animals, dolls, doll houses, and records, movie posters. We could go on, but we're here tonight for the mechanical music. And Jim recorded some music that we're going to be playing for you. Well, Bob and everybody else will be playing it for you. So I do hope you enjoy that, and we'll be here available at the end of the video so that you can ask questions if you have any. And I recognize some of your faces, some of you I don't, so hopefully that will change soon.
I'm Jim Kenny, and I've been involved with mechanical music now for almost 50 years, mostly with the Paul Torn collection. I've been involved here with this museum for 25 years. The museum now owns the General, which I ran as a young man, and now I take it out for fairs and parades, and I've taken it to many rallies. I've had it up Knoebels a few times, and Princeton and such. This year we're going to bring another organ up there, but so stop by and see us. But I hope you enjoy this tour that we're going to show you tonight.
Hi, I'm Ross Brackman, director here at the American Treasure Tour, and we're very happy to be hosting you, such as it is. Hopefully you'll be able to come here in person if you haven't been already, but if you don't know much about us, we are a private collection. As part of the agreement, we don't talk about the owner, even if you know who he is. I promise, we won't talk about him with you. But that said, we have well over 200 Nickelodeons or orchestrions here at the tour. Band organs, calliopes, dance hall organs. We are very proud of the collection. We wished we could play everything, but of course our power is not strong enough to play everything. So we have kind of our highlights, the greatest variety of machines that we can offer. And we're gonna play some of them for you today. Of course, we're gonna talk about them. And most importantly, you're gonna hear music. And that's really what this is about. Not only listening to the music, but the technology that goes into making them, which is just fascinating. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because if you're watching this, you love automatic music. So rather than listen to me here, let's go into it and talk to some of our machines. Now, before we play one of my favorite machines in the collection, I'm going to tell you real quickly about our iPad. If you haven't seen it before, this is modern digital technology being used to turn on the classic analog. So by pressing a button on this, we're triggering the power that's going to play the machine. So I just wanted to let you know why I'm holding this the whole time. I'm not watching videos or anything. But this is our Wurlitzer Style 1X or 9. And this comes from the Paul Akins collection. And if you haven't heard of Paul, he was quite a character. He was out of St. Louis, Missouri, and he had the Gay 90s Village, about 60 years ago or so. And that was kind of a showplace for old Nickelodeons and things like that. So you can actually see some of his old videos on YouTube, which I recommend. But this one, he used to tell people the story that it came from the red light district, which explained the red keys. Some of us are a little skeptical of the story, but we still love the keys. And one of the reasons I like showing this machine off first is for people who are unfamiliar with the technology. You can see a lot of what's going to happen down here. So the engine is pumping the bellows, getting the air through the tubes, going to the tracker bar, and reading the music. But rather than me talk about it, the joy of this is hearing it. And it's got a crystal sound. Now it's only the piano, which is stand out because most of the machines have far more instruments in them than just keyboards. but still, again, it makes it easier to understand, I think, for those trying to figure out the technology, and it just has a wonderful sound. So here you go. Two names that you hear in almost every Nickelodeon, with very notable exceptions. It's either Seeburg or Wurlitzer. And Wurlitzer kind of stumbled into the business when they commissioned machines from North Tonawanda. They didn't pan out, so they took over the company, that kind of thing. But this is one of their more rare machines, and this is also one of the older ones. This is from around 1906. So this is called the Mandolin Quartet. And when we start playing it, you can see closer up that what it is mallets hitting the keys that create a very distinctive sound for it. So it's, again, one of the nice things about what we've created here in our semicircle of Nickelodeons. We've tried to highlight different sounds and qualities and stories. So rather than just ramble on, I'm going to play this one for you, and we're going to hope that you recognize the song. And I will open it up for you so you can actually see the mechanisms, and you'll see this one is a lot technically more simple, at least what you're going to see inside the cabinet, than the red key we played earlier. So here we go. So we mentioned earlier Wurlitzer and Seeburg as the two big names in Nickelodeon production, but that's not to say they were the only companies. For example, Wurlitzer started with De Kleist machines. In fact, they kind of took over the De Kleist factory. While Seeburg, when they started production of Nickelodeons, everybody has their own ambitions, and two of the engineers for Seeburg broke off and created their own company. And they were Nelson and Wiggins. So this is a Nelson Wiggins style 6 machine. And initially, anyway, they had budget issues. So what they generally did was they put plain plate glass in their machines. So what you see here is a Nelson Wiggin with stained glass, which makes it far more unusual and special and rare. So we're going to play this for you. And this machine is the first that we've played so far in our row that has far more than just a piano. Granted, the last machine we had the mandolin effect. Well, this will have drums and xylophones and other elements to it that make it just to stand out in many ways much more special in its sound and unique. Another one of our Wurlitzer machines here, and this is another beauty. This is the Wurlitzer CX. The X is representative of the Ferris wheel, which means it's a 6-roll changer. Now, however much you know about Nickelodeons, the common Nickelodeon has 1 roll player with 10 songs on it, which is great. About half an hour's worth of music, maybe, depending on the length of the songs. But you play that over and over, it's going to get a little old. So this machine's remedy was having 6 rolls, each with 5 songs. So that's 30 songs, 3 times the amount. A lot more variety. And the technology behind it is also pretty substantial. So we love this machine as well as the magnificent stained glass. And one thing we've heard about this machine was before it came into our collection, it was in a home, but disassembled completely, which is to say, the glass was on display in the living room, but nothing else. And upon inquiry, it was determined that the machine was completely apart in the basement, well preserved, but our collector purchased the entire piece and then spent a few years having it restored. So we love it not only because of the beauty and the music, but also because of its backstory. And you will hear more than just a piano on this machine, and we're gonna open the panels up a little bit. So first we'll give you a close-up on the beauty of the stained glass, and then see the insides a little bit. So here we go. So another Seeburg machine that is very, very famous as far as their artwork goes is this. This is the Seeburg H. And the H was made between 1911 and 1920, and they made many, many different ones, but what stands out for us anyway are the stained glass and the wood craftsmanship. Now here we have strength, and here is beauty, just in case you weren't sure. And we like to think that they epitomize what these machines were all about, the durability of the Nickelodeons as well as the beauty behind them. And on the outside, all you really pay attention to is the beauty. But like the other machines, when we can, we're happy to open them to show you just how involved the interiors are. So once we start it, we're going to play it as well and open the doors for you. So here we go. So this is the exception. This is not from Wurlitzer or from Seeburg, which in my opinion makes it more special in some respects. This is a Koinola machine, and this one comes to us from the Musical Museum of Deansboro, New York. If you're familiar with it, it closed its doors in 1998, and we did get a number of the pieces from their collection here to preserve and share with you. Now, at the top, there's a little medallion that says restored by the Musical Museum in Deansboro, which means this machine was probably given a new life back about 60 years ago. That said, it has required almost no tweaking since then. It is a very strong, very durable machine. And one thing you're going to see right on the screen here is the xylophone. Xylophones and glockenspiels, which are basically metal xylophones, are incredibly popular in these machines, and that's because they are awesome. Yeah, that's an opinion, but I just love the sound that they add to a machine, and I hope you agree with me when you hear this one. You've also got the cymbal, the drum, the wood block. Rather than talk about it, here it is. Wurlitzer. Now we're going to go to the other guy. This is a Seeburg machine, and this is the Seeburg L, which is actually an incredibly rare machine. Very few of them were made, and it was inspired by a Tudor-style cabinet that Seeburg saw on a trip to England and thought, hey, that would be nice. And I think he's right. It is very nice, but when you hear Seeburg L, you often get it confused with the little box like Lilliputian. Completely different machines, and the smaller L's were much more prolific and much more popular. So that's something that makes this machine really special, we think. And when you look at it, you're going to notice it has a 25-cent slot. Don't be fooled by that. It's still a Nickelodeon. It's just inflation struck, as it did with many of our machines. So when you see the quarter, don't think it wasn't anything more. They usually charged a nickel until these machines moved on to different amusement parks or attractions in the later years when their peak sales kind of started to fade and people needed more money to keep them going. But enough of that said, you're going to see we have the pipes here, there's a drum, and it's a wonderful piece, and it truly defines why these machines should be called orchestrions. Machines we have a difficult time getting an exact date on, just because there's no real serial numbers recorded, things like that, which makes our Peerless 44 here that much more special, because we know this is from 1904. Not the first machine Peerless made. In fact, they introduced the piano Nickelodeons back in 1898. Now think about it. Think about what has happened in the world since 1898, let alone 1904. Flight being one of them, hitting the moon, the internet. It's really quite amazing. And then this is within 25 years of the introduction of applicable usage of electricity that they're making something this marvelous that sounds so great. And also you have to think about what it was like for the people to see these for the first time. Their homes weren't even electrified, and they're going downtown and they're seeing this play, seemingly by magic. Hopefully they knew better than that. But still, it is half a piano, essentially, but I think you'll agree with me when I play it. The sound is awesome. Here you go. I talk about these machines, one thing I'm becoming acutely aware of is I keep saying this is one of my favorites. And I think that's because most of them are just wonderful machines, and each one is one of my favorites. This is special for a few reasons. It is from the Link Company out of Binghamton, New York, which is only about 3 hours from here. They have a little museum talking about the Link Company because of, not exclusively, but because of their significance for Binghamton industry and their relevance to this day. Because the Link Company took over a flailing Nickelodeon business and created a very successful one. And then in the late 1920s, as they were seeing that Nickelodeons were being overtaken by jukeboxes and records and things like that, they diversified. Using the pneumatic technology that you need to be an expert in when dealing with Nickelodeons, they started creating flight simulators. And the Link Trainer is still relevant today. Now, of course, they're much more technologically advanced with digital systems and things like that. But the old ones were the ones that trained our pilots during World War II. You can see part of one of them here at the Treasure Tour. When you come through, you'll see the top of it. But these trainers were massive. You basically got into it, you learned how to fly. If you crashed, you walked away a little embarrassed, but you were fine. So back to the machine though. This is the Style R Link machine, and you'll see that this is also pretty rare. And it's magnificent. I mean, you just look at the colors. When I turn this on, it's going to be backlit to show you just how bright and brilliant this is. But then I'm going to open it for you. And one of the things Link did that by the 20s, very few Nickelodeon companies did, was they used the endless paper roll system. The value of the regular or traditional paper rolls as we know them is that it rewinds and they're relatively easy to switch out. But you also have to have a modifier to keep the speed the same as the roll increases on the tail end and things like that. Well, it's just a matter of going through the system. Now that said, not easy to change out the roll, but everything else about it makes it a little bit more simple. And simple means the less that can go wrong. So here we go, our Link R. Talking about all of these machines that are around 100 years old, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. This is the exception to that rule. This is the D.C. Ramey Banjo Orchestra. Now the D.C. Ramey Company was established in 1955, so by far beyond the typical generation of these machines. And they were designed, or they started intending only to restore machines. But I guess Mr. Ramey got a little ambitious. He saw a vision, and he wanted to recreate a design that had been destroyed. So the Banjo Orchestra that this is inspired by, as far as we know, there are no surviving examples of it. But what he did was he created a more modern machine. And this one, we believe, comes from about 1985. And of course, if you know anything about Nickelodeons, you know that they were expensive. They were too expensive for the average family to buy, and if you had one in your house, that was status. They were designed for businesses, for hotels, restaurants, things like that. Well, to give you a sense of the expense for a machine like this one cost just about $65,000 in the 1980s. So yeah, these were not made for the average family. And when we play it for you, you're going to hear all these machines, and the banjo actually honors the original Orchestrion or Nickelodeon of the Americas. Back in the 1890s, the first Nickelodeon was a banjo machine that you'll be seeing here too. But this takes it to the next level. And here we go. Ever been to the American Treasure Tour, one of the things that makes us proud of ourselves, I guess, for lack of a better word, is that we are constantly evolving. We change things as often as we can, and every now and then something new is added to the collection. We never know when it's coming, but then we always find a great place for it, or at least that's what we like to believe. And this machine here is a perfect example of that. This is a Seeburg G, another rare machine, also from the Seeburg company. But this machine was added just about 3 months ago. And some of us had no idea it was coming up. We'd heard rumors, but we didn't know when it was going to show. And then once it got here, Joe, our guy who works on the machines, he had to make sure all the problems that came with it were fixed, like rotting hoses, things like that. Now, I think it sounds awesome. I hope you agree with me when I play it for you. But there's also no question, the stained glass is amazing. And that's something that both Seeburg and Wurlitzer just did amazingly well, is make their machines lovely. So here we go. company was best known for their violino virtuosos, with reason. I mean, Mills was involved in a lot of different businesses, slot machines, vending machines, things like that. But we care most about the violins. And this one stands out because this is a double violin. And this is an actually incredibly rare specimen because most of their violins are just a single. And we don't get to play this very often because when we have tours and we have visitors come, we rarely play a full song. So we're happy to be able to play full songs for you, but it also makes it safer for these machines, or healthier. So we try not to mess with that, because when you leave it with the holes over the valves, I mean, it's not a tracker bar on this machine per se. This is a much more complicated machine than the traditional Nickelodeon. It can damage it. So that's why we only play this for special occasions. Now, this was the creation of a man named Henry Sandow. And he did this right around 1904. And what they did initially was they only had the violin, and then they had a pianist accompany it. And it took the pianist a while to complement the machine and make the rhythm and the pattern and everything go smoothly. So they finally said, let's just put the piano in it. And I think it works. I hope you do as well. And let's just play this for you here. Earlier we were talking about the D.C. Ramey Company playing their banjo orchestra with that beautiful banjo and the really distinct sound. Well, that didn't come from nowhere. That came from the American Automatic Banjo Company of New Jersey, or at least that was the inspiration for it. This is actually the very first Nickelodeon ever created in the United States. Not literally this machine, but this design. The Peerless that we played, the Peerless 44, that was the first keyboard. Big distinction. This was the first machine. And I'm going to ask Jim to focus when he shows it, to look at this plaque up here. This is a list of all of the patents that came with developing this machine, because it was a first of a kind. So there were 32 separate patents required to protect their invention. So I think it's very impressive that way, and just the fact that the machine actually plucks the strings makes it exceptional. Now, all that said, I'm not going to pretend this machine sounds quite as crisp and strong as the D.C. Ramey, but hopefully you'll agree with me that its importance historically trumps all of that stuff. So here we go. So yes, American is in the name of the American Treasure Tour Museum. However, everything here is not American made, truth be told. What I'm standing in front of is a Belgian-made dance hall organ from the Arburo Company. And the idea of the dance hall organ was not necessarily to be placed in a hotel or any place like that, you know, a nice restaurant, but to replace a live band at a dance hall. No breaks, no food, no salary. It's just a matter of maintaining it, which may be not good for the economy necessarily, but definitely good for the dance hall. And you'll also notice there is a accordion at the top that actually moves with the machine when, of course, when the cardboard book, as opposed to a paper roll, it requires the song. So here we go. Talking about these rare, possibly sometimes unique Nickelodeons and orchestrions in the collection. This is no exception. This is the Wurlitzer Mandolin Piano Orchestra from somewhere around 1912, 1915. There are only about 60 of these that were produced, which means that the amount that survive today are far, far fewer. We can't prove it, but we like to think we have the best one, maybe the only one. But this machine, when it was new, cost $5,000 to buy. Now we're talking 115 years ago, $5,000. You could have bought like a 2-bedroom home for the same price. So, you know, that big question, do you buy a mandolin piano orchestra? Do you buy a house? It's all about priorities. Well, one of the things besides the beautiful stained glass, besides the artwork, the wood craftsmanship that makes this special, is at the top. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a peacock. Maybe NBC stole it as their brand. I'm going to play it for you, and then we're going to turn the lights out so you can really see it. So we talked a little earlier about the Nickelodeons, Orchestrions in the music room here at the Treasure Tour. Well, we are a lot more than that. That's the reason we don't call ourselves an automatic music museum, which we like to think of ourselves as, but we have a lot of things that are beyond that. Animatronics, classic cars, model airplanes, artwork dedicated to the circus sideshow. So you gotta come, you gotta take our tram ride to see the band organs. Now this is a Wurlitzer. Wurlitzer was huge with band organs, and some of our fans are die-hard Wurlitzer followers, which you should be, because they're amazing. This one is a Model 153, and Model 153s are easily one of the most popular band organs you're gonna find. There's still a lot of them out there. Go to Hershey Park, Kennywood, other places, and you'll see them at the carousels, things like that. This comes to us from the Bill Black collection, so thank you, Bill. We love having it, as the other pieces that we have here we love as much. And we don't have this with a carousel, but it's in a room with other carousels, if that counts for you. But anyway, I do hope you enjoy it. Two of the Artisan Factory machines that we have on display, and we're going to focus on this one. This is the one we're going to play, but in a few minutes Jim's going to back up so you can see the second one. The novelty we have with these is this one is fully restored. The other one has the original facade from the original paint. It's faded over time and turned into kind of an attractive green, but this one is what it would have looked like originally. Now, full disclosure, both of these machines have been modified. They both run off of Wurlitzer rolls, but I do think that they're both very nice machines, and here you go. So we're back here in the toy box in Clown Country. Clowns do not attack. They are guaranteed to be safe so long as you stay in the train when you come through. But we're here to talk about this machine. This is a beautiful machine, an important machine. It is the very last band organ Wurlitzer produced before retiring out of that industry and moving into all of the other stuff they had, like the jukeboxes and things like this. This is a Model 165 band organ with the facade of a 157. And they did that again because it was pretty much the last machine commissioned. It was commissioned for a carousel in California, in Griffith Park, outside of Los Angeles, or within the borders. And so this was on location there. And this is a really long story. I'll keep it short because it's worth it. But this is the machine Walt Disney listened to while his daughters were going around on the carousel. And he kept thinking there's got to be a way to entertain kids and parents too. So we like to think that this machine helped, directly, indirectly, you decide, inspire Disneyland. A number of different machines that the Wurlitzer company designed over the years, but you have not yet seen, at least not since you've been with us, a Wurlitzer military band organ. This is a 148. Now, of course, they made a number of different styles of band organs. This is kind of the simpler variety, not simple in technology, but simple in facade. If you want to see something nicer, you go to someplace else, but this is all about, I guess, practicality and looking good, and also having a very strong voice, which is what you expect from a machine like this. And here we go. So we talked earlier a little bit about the dramas, the soap opera of the industry of mechanical music. The Seabergs, the Wurlitzers, everybody stealing and borrowing from each other. Well, this machine behind me, this kind of epitomizes that, because this machine was developed by the De Kleist Musical Instrument Works, and De Kleist sold out to Wurlitzer for reasons we won't waste our time getting into now. But when Wurlitzer took it, it was a barrel organ. They converted it into a 165, and since then it's been reconverted into a 160. Well, now we have added a MIDI just to guarantee that the music sounds strong and good. And I think you'll agree, if there's one thing this machine does, it sounds strong. All these pipes in it, they create quite an impact on you. Now I'm going to turn it on, and it does take a second to warm up because of the MIDI system. I don't think you'll be sorry. So we have 3 of the remaining 11 165 Wurlitzer band organs here at the American Treasure Tour. You heard the one with the 157 facade. Now we're going to play one that comes to us from the Bill Black collection. Thanks again, Bill. And this is a beautiful machine. What I like about it, I know that all the machines have beautiful paint jobs on them, and this one is quite different in that it's all natural wood color. But I gotta say, I think it works. Now, normally when you come to the American Treasure Tour, we connect this with the third 165, which is from Westfield, and we play it on a MIDI. And our audiences usually go crazy because it's really a very powerful experience. But for you, we're going to play one song, which I think is pretty amazing as well. But it's definitely not the experience you're going to get here, so not to sell too hard. Come to the Treasure Tour to hear both machines playing together.
James and Ross for a great tour. I'm going to open it up for questions in just a couple of seconds, but I did forget to mention that the 100th issue of the Carousel Organ Association of America's Journal is coming right up. So if anyone is thinking of joining COAA and hasn't done so yet, this is a great time to do it because it will be an expanded issue, certainly a keeper. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And now it's Ross and Jim to answer your questions.
I certainly hope you like it. Sorry you had to listen to me, but the good news was you got to listen to the machines in the middle there. And we do have other machines here that we can play, certainly, but it's just a matter of timing. And honestly, while I think Jim did a great job recording them, you do lose a little bit in the translation. And it just made me aware that we need to get our friend Joe here to try to tune our violin a little bit more. But if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, and you know, we showed you a small gathering of what was here at the machine, you know, the museum. There's quite a few more machines, so come down and see them in person. Or if you can look at my YouTube page, Worley 164, where I have quite a few more machines, videos on there as well. So, but please do come to the museum and see them in live.
I should also add that the Music Box Society International has their collection at American Treasure Tour. And we will have a future American Treasure Tour presentation specifically of the MBSI collection, which includes not just Nickelodeons, but music boxes and quite a variety of things. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with that one as well.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the music boxes. Just so you know, because we don't have a huge staff here, we don't often play the machines for folks when they come in, the music boxes. So please just ask. Let us know that you want to hear them, and we'll be happy if the timing and the staffing allows to play them, because we love them. I mean, it's a beautiful collection. They're truly works of art, and the more opportunity to play them, the more we'd love to.
This is Russ. I'm curious, do you have any interest in securing additional help for people to learn to restore your musical instruments?
Personally, absolutely. That said, it's not really in my hands because the collector is very territorial about his babies, which I can certainly understand. And I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Hilferty, but he is right now kind of monopolizing our restoration. So he would be the person to go to. Not to say inundate him with emails or anything, because he's a pretty private guy as well, but he is the one who comes in when we have, you know, distress, or when there's a machine that we would love to get playing again, because, you know, as I said, for practical reasons, we can't play them all. But so not the best answer in the world, but we would love to. It's just a question of propriety.
Are the keys on the accordion in the Aruba, are they made of ivory? But I didn't see it. I didn't see any like ivory on the keys. So I'm wondering if they're just wood or if they have ivory on them.
It's a Sandali. Yeah, it's a Sandali. I don't know that much about Sandali, honestly, but my guess, and this is a guess, I hope I apologize for not being 100%, but my guess is that they are ivory, because it's an Italian.
Okay.
It's an Italian accordion, and I know they took them seriously when they made them. So.
Ross.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ross?
Yes. Hi, Kevin.
Did you disconnect the MIDI system that runs both 165s to, did you switch it from MIDI to rolls to have them play separate songs?
We did. Yeah. The machine that we played there, we played it exclusively by rolls. So we don't get to do that when we have the tour come through. The downside of that is we really only have 2 songs on the MIDI. So they're both great songs by Irving Berlin. But,
what are those 2 songs?
Well, God Bless America and White Christmas.
White Christmas.
Yeah. So we only play that, of course, in season, because otherwise it might be a little weird. But yeah, they're both, but they only play. That's the only way to play both of the machines simultaneously right now.
I've also heard it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Well, we do change out the rolls on some of the other machines. So there's like the 165 with the 157 front. I would in no way be surprised if you heard White. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas on that machine.
Yeah.
But the two 165s on the MIDI, it's White Christmas. It's the Irving Berlin special.
We have a question for, does anyone know the song that the artisan played?
No, I don't know it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of the challenging questions we get here, because there are so many songs that are just not familiar to me. I would love to have more songs that people would come in and say, hey, The Sound of Music, which we do have. But
That's on the Quinola.
yep, the Quinola. Yeah, the Quinola has the most recognizable songs of any of them. It's all Broadway.
Broadway shows, yeah.
Are you still in the process of collecting? And how many existent collections are there in the United States that would rival yours, if any?
Well, this is, as Bob said, this is one private collection, and it is still growing, but we generally don't have information about how often he purchases new machines. In other words, we just recently got the Seeburg G that came in in March probably.
Yeah, March.
And Joe and Jim had been working on that for a few months before it got to the point where it could come in, and even then Joe had to tweak it. But as far as we know, there are no collections that rival ours in size. That said, you'll find much more majestic European type machine or European made machines in some collections. But as far as quantity of American made Nickelodeons and Orchestrions, I can't imagine anybody coming even close to us.
Yeah.
We have 150 machines on display in what we call the music room. And of those, maybe 20 or 30 of them run. But aside from that, we have a room filled with band organs and more Nickelodeons on display, and that's not including the ones in storage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Ross.
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
what do you get when you play two 165s at the same time?
Awesome.
A Wurlitzer 330.
I get it. That makes sense.
Hello, Ross. Just wanted to know this. So whenever I come visiting the place, get to see the band organs, even though I'm not familiar with the tram, because I actually know most of the band organs since I volunteer at the Herschel Castle Factory Museum as a band organ specialist.
Wonderful.
So, yes. So whenever I want to come visit, I would like to see most of the band organs and also the Nickelodeons, because I've seen most of it. So I've been to two places: Clark's Tram Post, the Moores Museum, and all the other places I've been to. So.
Well, if you wanted to come just for the mechanical music, honestly, I don't recommend it, because everything here is fun and quirky in its own way. But if you wanted to do just specifically that, what I would recommend is emailing or calling and setting up a special tour with Ashley. Ashley is our manager, like I mentioned, and she wouldn't necessarily be guiding you through, but she could set it up. And we've had some of our guests come in and just kind of focus exclusively on the Wurlitzers or the Seeburgs or whatever they want. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. It's just something you'd want to set up first. I'm a huge fan of the Carousel Museum in North Tonawanda, and would send anybody going to that area to it and judge anybody who didn't go.
Yeah, because I'm actually Doug's organ assistant, so you probably know Doug Hirschberger.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows
Yeah.
Doug.
Wonderful man.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, I'm Doug's organ assistant. So,
Great, right.
or should I call it protege?
Well, keep up the good work. We need people like you out there to keep the memories and the love going.
Thank you, Ross and Jim.
You're welcome.
Um,
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Kaylana.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Good. I got a question. I recognize that song called "There's a Rainbow Round My Shoulder," and I think I remember. There's a video that Jeff Renner, Oregon Hurdy, plays that song, and I think she had played that song when she was 1919, and I believe Jeff Brenner
Okay.
actually let her play that song, and it was, and it is the best one I've heard on Purdy by Jeff, owned by Jeff Brenner.
Okay, that was the answer to the question before,
For the artisan. Oh, wonderful.
right? Was it for the artisan, right?
That was
Or what?
that was for the Wurlitzer.
No, the one, what played before that somebody was asking the question? What song was that? You remember? It was that song, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, she just wanted to tell them that that was the name of the song.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, that helps.
Thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Great.
So you mentioned that you have a very large number of orchestrions and Nickelodeons, but one thing I'm wondering, do you have any like straight player pianos, just the normal 88 note, or even any of the, like, you know, the push-up models, like the push-up piano players?
That is a very fair question. We have two piano players on display, and we have no exclusive player pianos on display. I have asked to put out some player pianos, and the collector just doesn't really, they're not his thing. So we have thousands of player piano paper rolls in storage, but again, no player pianos. We have one machine that serves as a player piano, but it also, I can't really call it a player piano because it does have the pumps for the feet, but it also has a turntable. And so that kind of makes it a little bit different than what you're asking.
What do you mean by a turntable?
For records, for 78 speed records, you actually open up a panel and you can put a 78 speed record inside it and it'll play.
Oh, okay.
Well, it would play if it was plugged in and operating and all that. But yeah, it's a monster. That is a very heavy machine, but it's also quite lovely. And when you walk by it, you can see the pedals. And so your first thought is, oh, it's just a straight player piano. But then you can open the side and see the turntable. So if you come out and I'm around, definitely happy to show it to you. It's an interesting machine, but it's the closest we got.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question now that I'm unmuted. Going back to that machine with the amazing endless paper roll, I didn't even know there was such a thing. So certainly that was the first time I've ever seen one. And you're saying, yeah, hard to change out. I can't even imagine changing it out. So I'm wondering, does it ever even get snagged? There's just so much of it in there, all bundled up. Or does it actually really work?
Oh, it works. I've got to say, I mean, I used to be able to safely say that the machine never had any issues whatsoever, but now I've witnessed other elements of the machine break down and need to be replaced, but I have never seen the paper roll itself cause problems. So, and the Link company was specialized in it, but that said, it was one of the very early forms of the paper roll, because when you create the rewind device and the governor that regulates the speed, that's a lot more complicated. So except for the paper itself being insane in there, the technology behind the machines with the traditional rolls are more advanced. So they would have had people do kind of, like rent the machines. You were much better renting the endless paper roll machines and have a technician come in and change the rollout every few weeks. And so they probably, as I understand, would have either used adhesive to put the ends of the roll together, so they feed it through the machine and then just tape the ends or adhere it and remove that and change it. Now, that all said, I've been here off and on for 10 years and I've never seen our roll change. So I don't think Joe has any interest in messing with the roll itself.
There's a tool to change the roll.
Oh, okay.
It's like a two-pronged fork that you slide in and you just start winding it up.
There it is.
Also, the same mechanism was used in what you call ink on dot jet printers, if you remember. The ink or
So when you would change a rollout and try to store it, you had to put it in a giant box,
No,
I
no,
guess.
no.
Laid,
It
how did
fits
you
in
do
a
it?
it fits in a box about the same size as a piano
Huh.
roll.
Yeah. You would roll it up, and
They
then
roll it up.
the
Yeah,
person
okay.
would come through. I just got a question about the Sadie Mae. And Sadie, we love Sadie to death, but she is having some issues with her book. Her book is, I guess, I don't know the technical terms that Joe could share with you, but the book shifts. So it's missing the note. So it just doesn't sound right. And I'm hoping Joe is working on it. I keep asking him because we love Sadie. She's one of our most colorful machines, both in her story and her beauty.
Yeah.
But right now, unfortunately, she's down, and she has been for at least a few months.
So back to the link.
Yes.
I just want to say that next year COAA is hosting an organ rally in Binghamton, New York, which was home to the Link factory. We are anticipating having a presentation by the folks from the Link Museum. So I think you'll find that fascinating, just giving you a heads up for next year.
I didn't know about the meet there, but it is at the Roberson Museum. They have it's a small museum. I actually visited there years ago, and they do have a Link display, and of course Link talking a little bit about their Link trainer, which they're much more famous for than their Nickelodeons, or Orchestrions. But yeah, it's a neat place, and you're right near the carousel that Rod Serling famously introduced in one of his episodes of Twilight Zone, because he's also from Binghamton.
Any more questions?
No.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hello? All right, so I have a question. We've not been to the tour for a few years, but when we were there last, I think on the lower level there was a theater organ installed, or at least brought in. Is that theater organ still there, and is it operational?
It is still here, and I have not heard it in years.
It is working.
Is it?
It
Okay.
is working. Yes.
Great.
Up at the
So yeah,
Roberson-
if you guys come in, as a group or something, we can certainly check with. Well, maybe Jim will turn it on for you, because I don't have the authorization.
That's
Up
all
at
right. Thank you.
Harvey Rail used to take care of that machine and also play that, as well as they had a photo player at one time. Roberson.
Oh, I missed the photo player. And Joe has said that it's too far gone, the damage, whatever's happened to it, because
Yeah.
I was asking him to play it. But it is just such a charming machine.
Well, there was a photo player that was originally out of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, up in Binghamton, but I'm not sure where it's stored. And it was actually Harvey Rail's machine.
Harvey Rails, North Tonawanda trumpet organ arrived at the museum.
It's out here at the museum now. His trumpet organ.
Jim, someone asked in writing about the Empress. Is it functional currently?
The Emperor.
The Mortier.
I think that's the
I'm not
Mortier
sure.
organ.
Okay.
You want to cover it?
It's playing. It's well, like Sadie Mae. It's being worked on right now, so it's not up to full potential, but it does play. But
Yeah, both machines, when we play them, we find that they skip as many notes as they play, so it just kind of sounds hollow. And unfortunately, we took it off the conventional tour because it's become unreliable. But the Sadie Mae and the Emperor are the two machines that I would love to get back up in order. I mean, maybe they just both need MIDIs, and I say that understanding that it's not as easy to do as it is to say, but we would love to get them both just sounding as spectacular as they did 5 years ago.
Russ, what are the major challenges you still face in restoration, like finding parts or manufacturing parts, and how do you deal with that?
Again, that's Joe's field and Jim's.
yeah, I mean, it's sometimes the parts we have to take off of other machines that are derelict that will never be restored. Sometimes you have to make the parts, custom make them. It's sometimes going to machine shop to have new gears cut for you, and such as that. But it's a challenge at times, but it is possible to get done.
And bottom line is, it takes time. And Joe, like there have been plenty of times when Joe is lying on his back under a machine trying to figure out what the situation is. And then once he figures it out, it can take months before he's able to find or make the part to replace the one that's broken.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Of course.
About Harvey Rail.
Yeah.
Harvey Rail's link, the small link in the museum, that was owned by Harvey Rail as well.
Yeah. There's a few of his machines here.
The 146 and the Gavioli have unknown whereabouts.
Oh, I didn't want to mention the Harvey Rail's Wurlitzer CX is now at the Roller Auto Car Museum, which is in the carousel room, seen right by the Wurlitzer 157.
Wasn't that 157 once owned by Tim Traeger?
Yes.
Is that true? Is that true, Brant? Harvey Rail CX is it Roller Auto?
Yes, it is. It's not at the Roller Car Museum, which is in the carousel room.
That one was heard on the CD Roadhouse Razzmatazz.
If there are no more questions, I will thank Ross and Jim once again for a phenomenal presentation. We look forward to seeing you again for the MBSI tour, also at American Treasure Tour Museum, and look forward to seeing you at Knoebels.
We'll be at Knoebels and bringing an organ up there and stop by and say hello.
Will do.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us tonight, and hope to see you here. Hope to see you floating around wherever everybody happens to be.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Waz. And Jim, I'll see you at Knoebels.
See you there.
Good night,
Yep,
everyone.
thank you.